MrBeast. Because Elon wants him some Jimmy. And this is not a new thing. Right, shortly after he took over, Elon was talking a big game, telling Jimmy X would actually be able to offer higher compensation for creators than YouTube. But Jimmy is like an insane person when it comes to online stuff. Probably one of the most knowledgeable people about the space. And he responded saying, I'd be shocked if you crack that code. And while X has rolled out an ad revenue model, the money is very much not YouTube money. With someone telling MrBeast to upload to X, Elon Musk saying, yeah, but then Jimmy responding, my videos cost millions to make, and even if they got 1 billion views on X, it wouldn't fund a fraction of it. I'm down though to test stuff once monetization is really cranking. And while some saw that and they were like, oh, Jimmy just dunked on Elon. Not really. All Jimmy did was speak facts. I mean, other big names in the space have also sounded off on this. Creators KSI and Logan Paul, for example. They said that Logan made $1,500 from X, despite that being from hundreds of millions of impressions, which, hey, money is great. But while the numbers shift, if you release a long form video on YouTube, depending on the niche or what kind of ads you're getting, that could be like $3,000 to $40,000. I might even be undercutting some of the people in the really specialized niches. And on TikTok, like if you're a part of their creator beta, you get 1 million views. It fluctuates a lot, but that could be $1,000. But that's not to say that X, like their ad system right now, that's where it will always be. And at least in some way, Elon is trying to recruit talent. For example, last year, Tucker Carlson announced his show on the platform. And just this week, we saw Don Lemon getting a show on X, as well as other shows hosted by former U.S. Representative Tulsi Gabbard and sports commentator Jim Rome. Elon also just announcing a pay hike for creators on X in the coming year. But right now, it remains to be seen what those moves are actually going to do for the platform. It's very early days, but we'll see. And then AI just brought George Carlin back from the dead, which as a fan is a sentence that disturbs me. Which also, I gotta remember, not everyone is my age. If you're unfamiliar, George Carlin is regarded as one of the most influential stand-up comedians of all time. And I think rightly so. You know, he passed away back in 2008, but there's this AI comedy podcast out there called Dudesy. And they put out an hour-long imitation stand-up special of George Carlin called I'm Glad I'm Dead, with his Dudesy AI opening the show by saying,
I just want to let you know very clearly that what you're about to hear is not George Carlin. It's my impersonation of George Carlin that I developed in the exact same way a human impressionist would. I listened to all of George Carlin's material and did my best to imitate his voice, cadence, and attitude, as well as the subject matter I think would have interested him today. So think of it like Andy Kaufman impersonating Elvis, or like Will Ferrell impersonating George W. Bush.
And it then goes into the special, which uses a voice that sounds like George Carlin. And as far as the visuals, like it uses B-roll instead of an AI approximation of his face and body. Also with this, if you're like, what the fuck is Dudesy? Like, who are these randoms? It's actually hosted by Will Sasso and Chad Klutgen. And they let the Dudesy AI go through their work and personal messages to run the podcast. But, you know, with all this, you have a lot of people disturbed, with even George Carlin's own daughter tweeting, my dad spent a lifetime perfecting his craft from his very human life, brain, and imagination. No machine will ever replace his genius. Here's an idea. How about we give some actual living human comedians a listen to? But if you want to listen to the genuine George Carlin, he has 14 specials you can find anywhere. Others also slamming it, saying if Carlin was alive, he probably would have hated this. Saying things like, I genuinely don't understand how someone can claim to understand Carlin's comedy so well that they can replicate him with AI, but also not understand that George Carlin would have fucking despised them for being so creatively bankrupt and making us all culturally stupider. And for me personally, I agree with both that comment and Carlin's daughter. One, I think Carlin would have hated this. And two, especially if you're not familiar, I highly recommend going back and watching George Carlin specials. But then also three, I gotta add, like, I didn't know who the Chad guy was before, but I was kind of surprised that this came from Will Sasso. Like, it feels weird that another comedian, whether his spotlight has faded or not, would do this, especially because it appears to be like against the wishes of the family. Like, this just kind of seems like disgusting hack shit to me. But, you know, this is a Philip DeFranco show. Are you of this same mindset or no? Do you see like what they're doing as like being on the bleeding edge of art or commentary and tech? Like, I'm trying to have an open mind on it, but my gut says fuck this bullshit. But whether you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear from you. And then we've got more news we need to talk about, but I gotta take a second to pay some bills, because I want you to fast forward to the end of 2024. Have you thought about fun, helpful goals like learning a new language? And with that, like, what can you actually do right now to make that happen? Well, thanks to the sponsor of today's show, Babbel, they'll set you up for success, because Babbel's known for helping you speak a new language in 3 weeks. So hell, think of where you'll be in 12 months. Or if you're, as my son says, a big brain, maybe you've got goals to learn multiple languages this year. Give some of these Europeans a run for their money, especially because the feedback that I've been getting from people that I know is just how different this is from when they were in school. Because Babbel focuses on teaching you modern conversations that you can actually use in the real world. And it makes a difference that they use native speakers, not computers. And the dog part of my brain also enjoys the sound that it makes when I get it right. So y'all, don't pay hundreds of dollars for a private tutor or use language apps that are little more than games. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are designed by over 150 language experts. And again, they're aimed to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. And best of all, they've given me a special limited time deal for y'all. To get you started right now, you can get 55% off your Babbel subscription, but only for you at babbel.com/DeFranco. That is 55% off at babbel.com/DeFranco. Spelled BABBEL.com/DeFranco. Rules and restrictions may apply. And then the weirdest and most mysterious thing keeps happening. Any Trump opponent, and that they're trying to or could hold Trump accountable, they for some weird reason keep getting threatened and swatted. With the most recent being this morning, when we got the news about Judge Arthur Engoron. He's overseeing the fraud trial against Trump in New York. He was swatted at his home after someone called in a fake bomb threat. And the timing here is also a key thing, because it comes the same day that closing arguments are set to take place in the case against Trump, and just a day after the judge rejected Trump's attempt to deliver his own closing arguments. Right, and that because Trump and his lawyers failed to agree to certain conditions that the judge had outlined in order for that to happen. So with that, we saw Trump take to Truth Social yesterday, targeting Judge Engoron, saying he was a Trump-hating judge who was trying to screw him, calling the trial rigged and unfair. But also, this is just the latest in several similar incidents in recent weeks. I mean, just last week we had Tanya Chutkan. She's the judge overseeing the January 6th case against Trump. She got swatted at her home. And you've also got sources saying that special counsel Jack Smith, where he's overseeing the prosecution of both federal cases against Trump, he was a target of an attempted swatting on Christmas. So there, luckily, police were called off because law enforcement officials already protecting Smith were able to tell them that it was a false alarm. And they're like, it's not real, we're prepared for this. And a few weeks ago, Maine Secretary of State Shanna Bellows was also swatted one day after she removed Trump from the ballot in her state. And that, as the FBI also recently confirmed, it was investigating violent threats against the Colorado Supreme Court justices who ruled in favor of removing Trump from the ballot there as well. And so far, we've only talked about the people involved in Trump's ongoing legal battles. You also have people like Rusty Bowers, for example, the former Speaker of the Arizona State House. He played a key role in fighting Trump's efforts to undo democracy in his state. He returned home the day after Christmas, found it surrounded by cops. Someone had said that there was a pipe bomb and a murdered woman inside. And last week, there was a swatting at the home of Gabriel Sterling, the chief operating officer for Georgia's Secretary of State's office. But unfortunately, none of this is surprising. I mean, all the people that we're talking about today are people that Trump has repeatedly targeted both online and publicly during speeches. The rhetoric escalating. And all of this as he now calls the people he incited who attacked our Capitol on January 6th, people who attacked Capitol police officers who tried to stop the peaceful transfer of power, hostages because they're being held accountable by the law. And there's no reason to believe that what he is saying, what he is inciting, or anything in the situation is going to calm down before Election Day. And then we've got big and controversial news playing out internationally right now. Because you had South Africa presenting their genocide case against Israel at the ICJ, the UN's top court, the International Court of Justice. And I also want to note this, it's very important. What we're talking about today is not the end of the story. Because you had South Africa presenting their arguments today. Israel has denied the allegations. U.S. Secretary of State has described the allegations as meritless, though also notably while he's trying to push for Israel to scale back their intensity, and Israel in this court will present their side tomorrow. But with all that said, it brings us to Adila Hassim. She's a lawyer representing South Africa. She laid out the country's case in explicit detail, going step by step down the UN's 1948 Genocide Convention Treaty, which defines genocide as an act committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. And that also including not just direct killing and maiming, but also forcing conditions where life isn't sustainable, preventing births, and forcing children to assimilate into different groups. And I'll largely just be hitting her highlights. So if you want to watch the full thing, I'm linking to it in the description. First and foremost, the lawyers for South Africa clearly condemned Hamas and its actions, saying,
South Africa unequivocally condemned the targeting of civilians by Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups and the taking of hostages on the 7th of October 2023.
And then regarding the bombing of Gaza, Hassim said that this has been clear, calculated, and extensive.
The level of Israel's killing is so extensive that nowhere is safe in Gaza. As I stand before you today, 23,210 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces during the sustained attacks over the last 3 months. At least 70% of whom are believed to be women and children. In the first 3 weeks alone, following 7 October, Israel deployed 6,000 bombs per week. At least 200 times it has deployed 2,000-pound bombs in southern areas of Palestine designated as safe. These bombs have also decimated the north, including refugee camps. 2,000-pound bombs are some of the biggest and most destructive bombs available.
But Hassim then also saying it's not just the bombing of Gazans.
Israel's conduct has been deliberately calculated to cause widespread hunger, dehydration, and starvation. Israel's campaign has pushed Gazans to the brink of famine. An unprecedented 93% of the population in Gaza is facing crisis levels of hunger.
She also went on to describe the alleged mass kidnappings of Gazans.
Large numbers of Palestinian civilians, including children, are arrested